Like, what are we waiting on right now? Because we got all that dump of information.
Just before the mid-season break.
Like, just as the mid-season break was starting. And then, basically, like, it hit the fan, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then we've got nothing since, really. Like, what do you think, what information do you think we're going to get next?
So, well, the power rankings are out for F1. So,
Okay.
F1 does official power rankings internally. They have a judging panel who does power rankings. So, I was kind of looking at those, and they're kind of interesting.
Well, I do think that these are updated, like, race by race.
Yes,
So
they get judged per race. So, this was this is what was released just after they went into break.
Yeah.
So obviously, let's just start off with this. Get the F1 ball rolling.
Sure.
So obviously, in first place,
Max,
the
man.
I'm not even gonna bother going into why he's in first. We all know he's in first. Second, Charles Leclerc.
You know what? Like, you say that like it's obvious, but I might not have picked him. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I say that, but who else could it be in second, right?
Well, I think, and I also think when they're doing power rankings, I think they're less focused on like team strategy at Ferrari and things like accidents that go wrong, maybe like that you were involved, that wasn't maybe your fault. So I think I could be wrong, but I think when they're doing power rankings, they're just basing it purely off driver in car,
like performance.
Yeah, no other.
Well, that makes sense
surrounding it.
because he has like the second most wins, right? So
yeah,
that makes the most sense.
Qualifyings and poles and
Exactly.
whatnot. So he's in second, and then this is where things get really interesting for me.
Yeah,
George Russell in third.
Oh,
George.
don't even get me started on this guy. Okay, but you know what? I don't think that's too crazy just because of the consistency we've seen from him. Like, I don't think that if we were to rate them how they are at this moment, that he would be third.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, from the first half of the season, I think that's not a bad spot for him.
No, it's not bad at all. And the thing is, too, just because I forgot to mention, so Max was graded an 8.8, Charles graded an 8.3, and then Russell's graded an 8.0.
That's kind of a big stretch from 1 to 3.
It's a huge stretch going in. That's a full point. And then fourth, we have Lewis.
Wow. Okay, so the Mercedes split.
Yeah. And actually, in the headline, they say king of consistency. Both of the Mercedes drivers.
Really? Well, look, Mercedes, they would get every point they can, right?
They're just behind, picking up the breadcrumbs.
Exactly. You can't blame them.
So Lewis gets a 7.9. In fifth, Lando.
Wow.
He's been consistently fifth throughout everything this season.
Well, yeah.
Been pretty up there.
He's been consistently the driver that's the top. What do they always say? Best of the rest, right?
Best of the rest, like the best mid-class.
Yeah, right out of the those top 3 cars, Lando's always been, not always, but has been consistently the one who's at the top of that.
Yep, that is true. So Lando's given a 7.7, and he sits 7th in standings. So 7's all around for Lando. In 6th, we have Fernando Alonso, standings in 10th, and he's given a 7.5 grade.
You know what? Alonso, that makes sense.
I thought Alonso was going to get pushed over Lando, if I had to be honest.
Well, because like what you just said about driver like performance, he's had some, like Alonso's had some very impressive performances.
Yep.
Just because the points haven't necessarily kept up with how good he's been driving, that doesn't mean that like he hasn't been driving like his ass off.
No, he's been putting up a crazy year, good individual performances, which I think is his focus. So I actually thought that he would be given above Lando.
Yeah, I just think maybe not enough points.
Yeah, and the standings, he's just sitting on 10th place in the standings.
He's still behind Esteban.
Yeah.
In the ranking, the standings. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And I mean, McLaren, both those teams, McLaren and Alpine, they got enough to figure out for this midsummer break. So.
Yeah, I got some notes on that.
And then this is a little shocking. In 7th, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like 7th might be a little low. He's ranked 5th in the standings, so the last 3 guys above him higher. And he's given a 7.3. And I thought his last couple of races, he's really driven really well.
Yeah, he's been finding that consistency where ever since his win, you can tell he has that confidence, which it should do. A win should give you that confidence. So, I mean, you can't deny how much he was struggling though for a while there. Like he hit that stretch where DNFs and back of the pack. It's like
the engine blew up. when he was racing really well.
Just bad luck for a while there. But if he can keep up the pace that he's been doing the last couple races, I think next season we can really see a fight for that first Ferrari spot. That might be a bit controversial because Leclerc's like their guy, you know, he's their golden boy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's too crazy to think that Carlos could push for that number one spot. Like, I don't think that's crazy at all.
No, I don't think that's crazy at all. And I just refer to Mercedes right now. Like, Lewis is obviously the number one guy, but like, we're not going to pretend like Russell's not putting up points.
Exactly, right? Like, that's, so, you know what? That's actually a really good point. Like, if you look at Mercedes, Lewis is obviously like their number one driver, but that doesn't mean that they can't put like stock into George.
Yeah, you're building. It's like, because F1's weird than other sports, right? You can't just take, like, if you're a quarterback that comes into the NFL, you might sit the bench a season, see how it unfolds. You have a veteran presence. F1, you have a veteran presence to a point, depending on your teammate. But it's a dog eat dog out there. Like, even in other sports, yes, you're still fighting for that number one position. But the rules, the unwritten rules, are a bit more clear.
Yeah.
In some sports, and this one, not so much.
At the end of the day, you might have your team, you might have your goal for your team, for your teammates, but you're in that car.
Yeah.
You're behind the wheel, man.
Yeah.
You can make those decisions.
There's no passenger in this one. And with other teams, you're a team of, like, in football, you're 50-plus guys with all your coaches and whatnot like that. Hockey, you're a 20-something man roster. So F1's a little different that way. So, yeah, Carlo in 7th. Hopefully that'll change. Hopefully he'll put together a good second stretch here, because I think, like you said, he did find his confidence. This is also interesting, too. Tied for 7th.
Tied for 7th.
I
know where this is going.
Where's it going?
It's Checo.
It's Checo.
For sure.
It's Checo.
It's the secondary drivers for those top teams. I think that's a bit weird, but okay.
Yeah, I think both of them being down there is a bit weird. But Checo's in 3rd for standings.
Yeah, right.
So
I feel like he should be higher
up. Why is he 7th? Yeah. And he's given a 7.3, also like Carlo, 7.3. So that's a little weird. I didn't think, it's a weird that they're there. Like that position. I mean, maybe Carlo makes more sense there, but Sergio.
I do think Carlos makes sense there because of some of his like early season woes. But Checo's hit some. He's tripped up a few times, and he's had some bad luck a few times. But I think overall he's been relatively consistent. He's definitely been what Red Bull needs in Max's second driver.
Yes,
he's been that as much as he could have been.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Is he's in 7th, but he's done a few team order moves. You know, he's
helped Max a lot.
He's helped a lot, so I think that's a little weird for him to be down there. And then jumping in to 9th position is Esteban.
I love Esteban.
Esteban Ocon. Well, we're going to talk about that right after we get into the power rankings, because I got a hot take. And I don't want to call it a hot take, but I call it an interesting take.
Okay, because I've been, with all the Alpine stuff going on right now, I've been like listening to a lot of like what Otmar has to say about the drivers, and I do like Esteban a lot. Consistently getting points, but again, it makes sense that he's lower than Alonso. It makes sense that he's further back on this rankings because he hasn't had those individual performances that like make him stand out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Alonso put it in the front row in Canada.
Yep.
Here. In the Great White North.
But Esteban is sitting 2 positions higher in the standings.
No, exactly. He's been consistent. Yeah. He's been consistent.
Yep. And it's a 7.1 score. So that's a big jump from Sergio and Carlo tied for 7-8.
Yeah.
And then to 9th, that's 7.1. So that's interesting too. And then 10th position, I was a little surprised. Kevin Mag.
K-Mag.
Yeah, I was a little surprised.
Yeah, a guy who started the season off well. He's had some good performances since that early stretch, but he hasn't really been a game breaker or anything.
I mean, did they run into drivers to put 10th? Like, I don't know. Off the top of my head.
You know who should be there?
Who?
Ricardo. Like, if he was driving the way he should be, then that McLaren should be in those top 10 spots.
Yes, if that's true. If the expectations lined up with the season, yeah, sure, absolutely. So that's the power rankings. Super interesting. I just always love to see power rankings by league. Yeah. It's kind of fun. Like the NFL does it, NHL does it. They release their little power rankings, and sometimes you're like, what?
Yeah, what the hell is this?
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was very cool. So continuing that with F1 now, you had the driver's seat conversation you said you've been listening to.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, look. Danny, where you going, brother? Danny Rick, man, where you gonna be? Okay, so seats up for grabs right now. If you look around the whole league, whatever. If you look around the whole sport,
yeah,
Williams could have a seat.
Okay. Because you think...
Because
Latifi?
The GOAT Latifi, they don't want Latifi. They don't need a paid driver anymore. They've said it, that they don't need Latifi to pay. So there's a spot that could be open. And they were talking about Oscar Piastri going there earlier in the season. It's not that crazy.
Yeah, way before.
So Williams might have a spot open. Albon signed in that other spot. AlphaTauri could see Pierre Gasly go somewhere. Yuki also doesn't necessarily... I don't think he has a contract for next year.
He does not have a contract for next year.
McLaren is looking to get rid of Daniel Ricciardo. That's come on, that's basically common knowledge at this point. And then that Alpine spot is the only one that's like officially open.
Yeah, because even though McLaren keeps saying like, yeah, we're looking to move Danny, there is a sliver of chance that he doesn't get moved.
Well, he's signed for next year at McLaren.
He's still under contract. So there is that chance where they're like, you know what? We'll go back to the drawing board. Not your fault. We'll take responsibility a little bit, but I doubt that because no accountability anywhere in F1 engineers and team principals. So
honestly, but so okay.
So I had an interesting take because not on your list is Alfa Romeo.
Yeah,
and the team has not confirmed that Zoe will be back.
Yeah, I think it's almost I'd say it's almost a given though.
You think so?
I think so. He's been driving relatively well for his rookie season. Mm-hmm. He's shown the second half, I guess. The second quarter of the season that he's been able to keep up with Bottas sometimes, even though he hasn't had as standout performances as Valtteri. Like he's been showing that he can keep up, and I just think that there's a paid driver also, somebody who brings in a lot of fresh eyes to the sport. Only Chinese driver in the sport.
I want to say you're right, yeah.
And so I don't think that he's going anywhere for Romeo. If he does, that would have an interesting spot open because there's a driver named Mick Schumacher who might be looking to get out of Haas. And then that causes a whole thing where...
So I think Schumacher looks to get out of Haas all depending on the second half of the season. This all depends on how he races. If he doesn't race well, you kind of want to be the fly on the wall. I have a seat. I'm going to sit here. I didn't race great last year. I'm going to come back 2022, 2023.
Solidify.
And I'm going to race with Haas because I have no other ground really to stand on.
Get my leverage.
Yeah.
Show how good I am.
If he dominate being a loosely used word here. If he's consistently good, he might be able to shop himself around a little bit.
Yep.
But I just thought it was interesting that they didn't announce he was coming back for Alfa Romeo. Because, if he doesn't, if they say, we're exploring options, that's a real shaker.
Most teams, and I say this as somebody who has not watched F1 very long, but I'm pretty sure most teams announce their lineups, in, September.
Yeah, later.
And I know Gunther from Haas, excuse me, Gunther said that they'd be announcing their lineup in September, and that they're going to take a look at it again in the after the break. And I don't know if Mick is going to be able to do enough in that time to, change anybody's minds. If he does, that's great. But I don't know. That's something that we can speculate on, but I don't know if we can actually get an actual answer out of it.
2-3 races, see how it goes.
We'll see.
And also, again, not like other sports, there's no deadline.
Yeah, so we'll see.
There's no trade deadline. There's no your roster has to be finalized for playoffs. There's none of that really. Yeah. Everything's just a contract. So
the only other thing I'll say about the whole driver swapping situation and the musical chairs that is the F1 driver's seats.
Yep.
There is a possibility, and I don't think this is a bad idea, that Oscar is under contract with Alpine, technically, right? Mm-hmm. They've invested millions of dollars into his development, and he has so rudely, according to Alpine, so rudely ditched them and kicked them to the curb. We're assuming for McLaren at this point, maybe more than assuming, but there's an idea going around that I think he's a 9-time race winner. 9-time race winner Daniel Ricciardo might be a good fit to go back to Alpine, and if they start doing the legal troubles and legal battles over Oscar Piastri's contract, they might be able to like figure out an arrangement where they do a driver swap, where Piastri goes to McLaren and Ricciardo goes to Alpine, and then we're all hunky-dory, happy, ready to go.
Yeah, I don't see that as like not a possibility because like this got messy really quick.
Yeah, and then we haven't gotten anything. So it's just like
everything's kind of up in the air.
They took a dump on the table and just like left it. It's like, can we get some more information on this? You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I say that maybe if the Tauri seats go up, I can't see Ricciardo going back to Tauri.
No,
I can't see that.
I've heard that too. Like, I would actually like die if he ended up in like an Alpha Tauri. Come on.
Yeah, I can't see that. But him going to Alpine makes sense, right? I think that makes sense right now. I think that's what makes sense.
Yeah, and they said that they'd want to have him back. I mean, we're just speculating. We've got no words. I think Alpine's tweet announcing Oscar Piastri is still on their Twitter. So I don't know what's going on there.
So behind closed doors, I wonder if they're like, no, you're literally signed to us.
I think that's what they're saying now.
And Piastri's like, well, no, I actually just signed this contract. Because that's the other thing. We haven't heard anything about Piastri. So did he make a mistake and did he double sign and now we're in a legal battle here?
Maybe, but
so that's interesting.
Otmar said he was pretty ticked off, and I don't have the exact quote, but paraphrasing, he basically said like, I don't need a contract to tell me to like not go back on my word. You know what I mean? Like if he said he'd be driving for us, I don't need him to sign some legal documents. He said he was going to drive for us. So in 2023,
that's not how business works.
Yeah, but
everyone holds a little knife behind and just goes, "Oh, I have it behind."
It's still not a good look for. It might not be a good look for Oscar.
But Zoe and Zoe also says the same kind of thing. He's like, I don't need a contract right now to be happy with my performance and to be confident that the team will bring me back. I don't need that contract talk right now.
Okay, that's a good.
He's like, if I
quote.
Keep doing what I'm doing, I'll be good. And he said in an article that he feels like he's gone through a 10-year span this season with everything that's happened to him, all the DNFs, the crazy crash.
The good performances, too.
Good performances, getting qualities. Points. And he even said in the article, he says, I'm confident enough to say that if it weren't for the DNFs, I'd be higher in the point standings. And I said, hey,
that's nice.
Who are we to argue with that?
Yeah, I think he's been driving well. He's been a good little surprise, especially after some, like, lackluster rookie performances in the last couple of years. I say that not really being able to name any. Like, well, obviously there's like Nikita, and Mick not getting any points last year. I guess that was the Haas car, but like it's cool to see, and Yuki too, like having some issues. But it's cool to see a rookie come in and do pretty well. Hopefully we can see a rookie come in and tear it up next year with Oscar.
I'm excited to see that, and I have nothing really left on seats because, like we said, it's all speculation. Yeah. We'll have to play it out a couple more weeks until September, see how that really goes. But Ferrari, I guess, announced that they will bring in a complete engine upgrade going into Belgium. I'm pumped. Hopefully that means the thing doesn't blow up. So I'm excited for that. No details.
And no strategy changes. I don't need it.
So Binotto said, why should we change? He said that in an article. He's like, oh, if I look back at the season, we don't really need to change anything. We've been racing well, and it's all about performance. And it's like, dude, are you blind?
Yeah, like, it's kind of crazy.
No, you're too busy going to the bathroom.
It's just a bit of, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but it's a bit of like ignorance is bliss type deal where they just don't acknowledge it.
So I'm excited they're doing that. And then the last thing I want to say is Mercedes hasn't really said much this mid-season break. They haven't said much. I haven't read anything about upgrades, anything like that. I assume they're going to be bringing a new package in for at least Lewis, I would imagine.
Mercedes win early.
Early?
Yep. First 3 races.
So if you go back to the first episode, I said I don't think Mercedes can win a race with both other top teams being in the race consistently. Depending on this package, my opinion may change just because.
Doesn't matter. I already said it.
That's fine. Just because. It all comes at this point. It just comes down to like engineering. I think from the teams, right? If somebody releases a good package and they can get another second up on somebody, that could change the entire thing. Because there was a couple times, where like Russell got pole. So he beat Carlo and Charles, beat both Red Bulls in that quali. So definitely don't think it's out of order, but I still think if Ferrari and Red Bull are consistent and in the race, I still think it's hard for Mercedes to win.
We will see.